The white-tailed deer is America's favorite big game animal, and white-tailed deer farming is the fastest growing segment in the American agriculture industry. Our program's mission is to dive into the world of deer farming and discover why tens of thousands of Americans compete to create the biggest bucks in the world. And by the biggest bucks, we don't just mean the size of the antlers. The financial investment opportunities produced even on small parcels of rural land will blow you away. Join me as we discover how whitetail genetics, deer auctions, animal husbandry, and so much more drive the deer farming industry. My name is Keith Warren, and this is Deer and Wildlife Stories. Well, howdy everybody. This week, Deer and Wildlife Stories comes to you from P-Bar Whitetails. We're up outside of the little town of Bullard, Texas, up in northeast Texas. And P-Bar Whitetails has not been around for a long time in comparison to a lot of these deer breeders, but P-Bar Whitetails is making a name for themselves in the industry because of one thing and one thing only. It's Jody Phillips. And she's serious about everything she does. And anybody that knows her knows whether it's Jody throughout, because she's serious about the health and the condition of her deer, yeah, but she's serious about the pedigree. She's serious about the deer business. She's serious about every single thing she does, and that's what makes her so successful.
So growing up, I showed a lot of livestock, mainly sheep, all over the state of Texas, and my dad and I kind of traveled everywhere on the weekends, and I learned a lot of my animal husbandry skills because of my dad. I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a family who loves the outdoors and loves whitetail, and I'm also very fortunate to have found someone like Joe who shares my passion for the outdoors and whitetail deer as well.
So we just got here, and all of a sudden, just in typical fashion, if something go wrong, it's gonna go wrong, and Jody had a fawn that was in trouble, so everything stops when a deer is in trouble.
So this is Eloise, and we've been doctoring her for a respiratory issue. I don't know if you can hear, but she's wheezing pretty bad and having a hard time breathing out. As is typical on a deer farm, just as Keith was rolling up, we had a little bit of an emergency in our fawn area in our nursery, and we had a doe that had an issue breathing. We weren't sure if she was choking or what had gone on, so we had to stop everything to deal with her, brought her inside and kind of came up with a plan of action and got things going. She's doing really good now, but there's so much that has to be done on a daily basis around here, but whenever something's sick, we drop everything and we tend to our herd. Joe and I's goal here at P-Bar Whitetails is to establish a large, healthy herd of nice pedigree, big frame, long tine bucks with very powerhouse doe pedigrees to back those up.
All right, so it's the middle of August, and the bucks are just about done growing. We're gonna start out in the 3-year-old pen. The reason why is I wanted to point out that Jody has not been raising deer very long.
No.
And this is your first set of deer really that are ready to sell, right?
Right.
And so tell me about them.
This is our pen of 3-year-olds. We have 11 to 12 that were born here. Mm-hmm. And they're at the point now where they're big enough and ready to sell to other ranches.
And so you may be looking at these guys like that guy right there, absolutely beautiful. There's some nice deer in here, but you know, you hear say they're ready to sell to other ranches. Address what these deer are going to be for. Okay, I mean, there are people that are watching the show that don't understand deer farming, don't understand why would you do this, and where do they go? So tell them.
They're going to be pasture deer, basically deer to enhance their genetics on the deer that are already there. I'd like to assume a lot of them will be sent to enhance genetics in a pasture.
And see, the reason why that's important is because if you've had a hunting place, you've hunted it for a long time, you think, okay, you're stuck at little deer like this. There's a reason for that.
Right.
It's called genetics, okay, and hunters have shot the genetics out. And it's for that reason that people with high fence ranches wind up have the ability to be able to manage the genetics, and at some point you got to bring in new genetics.
Right.
And so the genetics that you've got across all these deer, now again, these are the first deer that were really born out here, and you've got their sisters clearly, and their moms, okay? But this is the first crop of deer, so the only time you make money in the deer business is when you sell something.
Exactly.
That's what I tell people. It's like, and unfortunately we can fall in love with the deer. It's like we don't want to sell them, but we have to.
We're not deer collectors.
Yeah, we're deer, although sometimes it seems like that. And so, but the deer, they wind up, most deer are bought, most bucks are bought in Texas anyway, in August to September, because they're delivered about middle of September, more or less.
Right.
And there's a cutoff date because of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So there are people, if you're one of the people out there that's got a high fence or thinking about putting up a high fence, more than likely your genetics they need to be supercharged with a new infusion of really good super genetics. And this is how it's done. So you bring deer in like this, and a lot of people actually leave, every one of these deer you can see has got a tag in them. A lot of people leave that tag in so they can identify the deer in the pasture and say, hey, that deer is off limits. Do not shoot that deer. We want that deer to breed. And that's what these deer really are. These are breeder deer. They may not be the quality of breeder deer for P-bar whitetails right now, okay, because you've raised it up so much, but they are a breeder deer somewhere.
Exactly.
And so these are great pasture deer. And you know, we started out at a 3-year-old pen because these are all the 3-year-old bucks except for one, okay, and the one we're going to save the best for the last, okay. So at this point, I want you to take me over to see the 2-year-olds. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get.
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by New Dart, leading the industry in accuracy. Now it's time for one of our frequently asked questions.
We had a buck that had sore feet, and I had no idea that his hooves were in as bad a shape as what they were in, so I went ahead and knocked him down. It took 12 minutes for him to go down. We put him in the back of the buggy here. His hooves were terrible. They were very elongated. You could tell why he was kind of limping around. So what we did, we took nothing but a pair of pruners, and we started taking small pieces off to get them back in the natural shape that hooves are supposed to be in. Then we take an electronic Dremel tool to grind them down and get them back into shape. We've taken off as much as we can. He seems to be doing good. I'm waiting for the fluids to get in him now. At that point, we're going to take him, put him out here. We're going to reverse him, and he'll get on his feet.
Coming up after the break, we'll have more big bucks. Deer and Wildlife Stories will be right back.
Okay, so what we're looking at here are some really nice 2-year-olds, all born here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, they've all got phenomenal pedigrees. I know that. We'll talk about that in a second, but that's a big deer right there. Okay, so you wind up, of course, you got a lot of help out here that helps you. The girls are awesome. I mean, they help you, and you need help when you're going to AI, artificially inseminate. And so you AI basically every doe, don't you?
Yes, every doe here gets AI.
Okay, and the reason for that is?
So we can enhance the pedigrees to make sure that they're bred the way that we want them bred.
In other words, they're designing the genetics. They're basically designing the genetics, and as you can see, it's working. And so out of these guys, how many were the result of AI?
Roughly 85% of these.
Really? Really? So y'all had tremendous success at it. Some of these deer are big enough that they would certainly be breeders in other people's programs, and the bloodline is good enough too.
Absolutely, yes.
So what's going to happen to these guys?
We're going to hold back these top ones and hopefully till 3. If someone would like to buy one of these as a breeder, that is an option. But all of these guys have huge potential as 3-year-olds as well, so we're just going to see what they do next year. Definitely got my favorites.
Oh yeah, and so and everybody got their favorite. I mean, what's cool is that guy's real clean. That guy's got a little bit of extras on him, but they're all big and framey. But I'm really amazed how consistently big frame they are across the board.
That's what we're going for. Big frames, long tines.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Who is your typical customer? No, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that, but I throw you a curveball. Yeah. Describe your typical customer.
For us, just being so new in the business, and I say new, 4 years, 3 years, our typical customer is someone looking for a high-end doe. We've sold a lot of high-end does in sales, and we do a lot of private treaty sales. partnerships, things like that. It's been mainly the deer farm that wants to enhance their genetics.
Okay, so this would be a great place to come if you want to deal with somebody that's going to stand behind their deer, know their deer, and help you if you've got any problems down the road, to come and take a look at these deer and say, and she'll sit down, I'm sure you'd sit down with somebody with pedigrees.
Absolutely.
And say, okay, we can help you kind of mold your program into what you want. Okay, and so that you can help advise which deer they'd want.
Right, and we're able to show them exactly kind of what some of these deer have produced. Every deer's going to be different, obviously, but they get a good idea of what to expect.
Yeah, and see, that's the whole deal in the deer farming business. Is like we're looking at predictability. I mean, it's,
right.
we're looking at how they produced in the past, their marketability, what their value is, the owner of those deer.
Right.
I mean, because just because you have a big deer may not be owned by a guy that has a lot of respect in the industry, and I think that's important to point out as well.
It is very important as well.
Okay, and so if you're going to buy a deer, I think there's a lot of things to consider. Pedigree clearly is one, but who you're buying the deer from is important too, but also kind of who you're dealing with, the network that you're dealing with.
Right.
What I mean by that is getting out to meet people, whether it's at an auction or actually going to deer farms and visiting people.
Right.
For example, you have deer farmers come over here all the time to visit, don't you?
Just come see what we're all about.
There you go. And that's the way I tell people, I said, if you want to find out what the score is, where you kind of rank in the industry, go visit some other deer farms and you'll find out real quick.
Right.
Okay, somebody want more information on P-Bar Whitetails, what do they need to do?
They need to go to our website, www.p-whitetails.com, and all of our contact information is on there, as well as other information just generally about our farm.
Okay, so I got a question for you. I was out here last year and I don't see, Jax is not in here. Did you get rid of Jax? What's the deal with Jax? Is he in another pen?
He is. Right now he's in with a bunch of yearling bucks.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, let's go take a look at the yearlings, and I want to show you Jax. But before we show you Jax, I want to show you what Jax looked like last year. So anyway, he's a pretty big deer. Let's head on over to his pen then.
All right.
He's a beautiful deer right here. You didn't tell me. He doesn't have any antlers. I mean, last year, look at him. Okay, so last year, again, I want to show you a video. He was in the same pen. I mean, that footage, he was on the hill right there.
Right over there.
I mean, what a beast of a deer. And so, why'd you cut him off? Tell me what he looked like before you cut him off and all that.
Jax grew really early and really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Only being a 2-year-old, he really didn't know how to handle his antlers. One day we were in here just putting out some hay, and he got a little excited and ran down and just raked his tire beam on the outside down the fence. So we went ahead and treated him for that, knocked him down, fixed him up. And as the years gone, he just kept growing and growing and growing bigger. And he got to where he just was kind of uncomfortable with the size of those antlers. So we went ahead and just cut him off so he'd be ready to breed.
There you go. So, okay, so he is a breeder buck. I mean,
Yes.
look at his tag, Jax. Okay, so, golly, you've got some pretty yearlings in here. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, they're all awesome. Just some are more awesome than others.
Right.
913. Oh my goodness. I mean, so, okay, but these aren't all the yearlings that you have. You have other yearlings as well.
Yes.
And, man, I mean, and they're so calm. Look at that. We don't even, I mean, have you noticed that it seems like the longer that you have deer and the more time you spend with them, the more gentle they become?
Oh, absolutely.
Like every generation.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, they're really pretty. I like the fact that they're clean. So goal-wise, let me ask you your goal. Look at this knucklehead behind us here. Clearly he was a bottle baby.
Clearly, yes.
Okay,
That is
so-
Grant.
If somebody would have told you 10 years ago that you were going to be doing this today, what would you have said?
I would have called him a liar.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it amazing how
it is.
And what amazes me, what I always tell people, I think the white-tailed deer are magical animals.
They are majestic.
They're magical because it's like there's something about them that it brings people together that we would never know each other if it wasn't because of the white-tailed deer. And how many friends have we met because of the white-tailed deer?
A lot. Some of my very, very best friends are
yeah, and you wouldn't have
world.
met them without the white-tailed deer. And all these deer farmers, they have a passion, a love for the white-tailed deer. And so it's for that reason that I tell people it's very therapeutic as a deer farmer. It's very frustrating, trust me.
Yes.
I mean, there are times it can be very frustrating, but it's also very therapeutic to come in the pens and just sit here and watch them. And you watch them, it's a 365-day-a-year gig. I mean, you're out here every single day. You're out here morning, you're out here evening, sometimes you're out here in the middle of the night. I mean, last night y'all were working on that little fawn at late at night.
Right.
You know, and so the reason why is because we love these animals, period. We love them. I mean, look at this. Grant is Mr. Nosy.
No,
okay,
sir.
now come on, you behave yourself. All right, so what we're gonna do, I wanna kind of break away from this and say, we're gonna go to another pen. Because see, Jody, when she got started, just like everybody else, the age class of deer that she has, the older the age class right now, she doesn't have that many deer in there. And the 2-year-old, she's got more deer in that age class. And the 1-year-old, she's got a lot more deer in that age class. So this is just one of the pens of the 1-year-olds. We're gonna take you to another pen of 1-year-olds right now, and we're gonna show you some beautiful yearlings. But we're gonna also introduce you to a buck
Grant wants to play.
by the name of Broker. And he's a 3-year-old. And I guarantee you're gonna wanna see Broker. Hey, knucklehead, what are you doing?
The Deer Farming Channel is brought to you in part by Record Rack Deer and Elk Feeds.
Hi everybody, this is Shannon with LE Fence, and we're going to talk about a little fence repair today. As you can see, this is a Keith Warren fix, and we are going to do this the proper way. First thing we got to have is our tools that we're going to need, which are going to be your bolt cutter style pliers, crimping tool, crimps, chain walker, come along. So we're gonna cut and clean up the edges, get rid of unnecessary wire. We need to add a piece of wire as we're gonna pull this fence together. As long as we have an inch of wire overlapping the distance of the crimp, then that's gonna be sufficient for the repair. And you can do that with a big area. Somebody somewhere is gonna snag a fence with a tractor, trailer, something of that sort. This is how you fix a fence. If you'd like to contact us at LE Fence, information is at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for watching.
All right, so we just wound up showing you some 1-year-olds in the pen on the other side of the hill. We moved pens, and there's a bunch of 1-year-olds in here. There's a special deer in here that we're going to show you in a second. But these 1-year-olds, I want to just keep looking at them and thinking, as far as the frame on that guy right there is beautiful. Now, pedigree-wise, they're all stellar pedigrees.
Right.
I mean, how did you do this?
When we got into the business, we were strategic about buying does. Always have conversations about, is that the right doe? Is that a doe we need? Trying to buy does that are going to produce big frames, long tine, typical type deer.
And the market really is for the typical framey deer.
Right.
And I mean, and so anyway, you got that yearling right there, and he's beautiful, but take a look at that buck right there. That's no yearling, that's a 3-year-old. Tell him about him. His name is Broker.
So this is Broker. He's the 3-year-old. The reason why Broker is here is because we needed a buck with a pedigree that fit with these does that we've invested in. So his pedigree matches up really well with every deer that we have here. He's horsepower, blue chip brandy, and if you line up his pedigree on top of all of our girls, it makes for a very, very nice, sellable, high marketable pedigree.
And if you're a deer breeder, you clearly are putting deer in NADR, North American Deer Registry, and if you're not, you need to, if you want to have any value of your deer at all. I mean, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to have your deer in the registry. But you can go on the registry, and I want to encourage you to do this. Do some research. I mean, there's some people that spend all day long on there. Because you can like go in there and not quit. You will not believe the quality of deer that Jody Phillips has. And go in there and just do some research. You're gonna see that the pedigrees that she has are as good as any pedigree there is on the market.
Yes.
Period. And so yeah, you look at Broker, and you look at these deer, these 1-year-olds in here, and all the 2-year-olds. We've shown you all these deer, and we've shown you this manicured, beautiful place. But the thing that's really beautiful about this is that she has built these pedigrees on the doe side.
Yes, from the bottom side up.
And so while most people are looking at the top side, you know, the antlers, like she says, antlers will come.
Antlers will come.
Well, you've done a heck of a job. So if somebody wants more information about coming out here, what do they need to do?
Just go to the website, www.pbar, the bar is a dash, whitetails.com, and it has all of our information, location. You're free to send me an email, and we'd love to have you come out, show you around.
I can't believe it. He's beautiful. Look at him. Those beams are like,
That's what turned me on to him to begin with. I'm a sucker for that. If somebody shows us a deer that has really long beams, I am a sucker.
Yeah, but not just
can't help it.
beams. He's got the tine length. I mean, he's got the look.
He does. He's a very big frame, typical, and that's what we're after.
And when you come out here, ask to meet old Joe.
That's a treat.
Yeah, Joe is her husband. Okay,
Yes.
so you need to meet Joe. Yeah, but Joe has been, Joe's an awesome guy. He has given Jody the ability to go do this.
He has.
And let me tell you something.
He has done that.
This is all because of Jody. I mean, a woman that has built this. That's pretty doggone cool. So
Thanks.
Thank you for having us out. Thank you all for watching. Got any questions or comments you're watching online, you know what to do. Post them below. We'll get back with you. My name's Keith Warren, and we'll catch you next time.